But anyway, so another record that was in the stack of hand-me-down records that I got when I first started listening to music was Johnny Cash's Greatest Hits Volume 1. And I had a little friend, his name was Kevin Orton, and we're still friends today. And we would sit around and we would just dance to all these great Johnny Cash songs, and we loved them. But then the very last song on side 2 was this song called Give My Love to Rose. Do you guys know this song? I'm going to sing it for you. It's a song about a guy dying by the side of a railroad track. This guy finding him just right as he's about ready to expire. And it was such a sad song. Me and my friend, you know, we were probably 6 or 7 years old maybe, and we would be bopping around the room with all these Johnny Cash songs, and then when it came time for that Give My Love to Rose song, we would run over to the little GE portable record player and we'd yank the arm off. And if we didn't, if that song started playing, the two of us, two little 6-year-old boys, just crying at this incredibly sad song. So I'd like to conquer my fear of this song for you right now. Give My Love to Rose. I found him by the railroad tracks this morning. I could see that he was nearly dead. I knelt down beside him and I listened just to hear the words the dying fella said. Said they let me out of prison out in Bristol. For 10 long years I paid for what I'd done. I was trying to get back to Louisiana to see my Rose and get to know my son. Give my love to Rose, please won't you, mister? Take her all my money, tell her buy some pretty clothes. Tell my boy that daddy's so proud of him. And don't forget to give my love to Rose. Won't you tell him I said thanks for waiting for me? Tell my ma to help his boy at home. Tell my Rose to try and find another, for it ain't right that she should live alone. Mister, here's the bag with all of my money. It won't last them long, so it goes. God bless you for finding me this morning. Now don't forget to give my love to Rose. Give my love to Rose, please won't you, mister? Take her all my money, tell her buy some pretty clothes. Tell my boy that daddy's so proud of him. And don't forget to give my love to Rose. Yes, white people, the dance floor is completely empty here, and I see you all crowded there in the back of the room.
Yeah, fill in because
feel free to fill in and have a good time.
We got to keep that open for the fire department. Come fill in, please.
Now, if you really want to, I'm just kidding, but if you really want to get in the mood, you'd all sit Indian style on the dance floor.
Here, you got to come in. Dance floor. Thank you. Got to stay out of that hallway. Come on in.
So I was really lucky. I had a really cool dad, and my dad restored antique airplanes for a living, and it was a really cool thing to be around, you know, all these salty old aviator guys from the 1930s and 40s, and he would restore these biplanes out in the barn, and we would go around and we would look for junk. And I remember that, you know, my dad was just really into going out and finding junk, and all these years later I've sort of turned into a carbon copy of my dad, except that I'm just into music instead of airplanes. But he's the first one that got me out there just, you know, thrifting and junking and looking through old piles of stuff and digging out these gems. And we both decided that we really liked old blues 78s. So we started digging out blues 78s out of, you know, old jukebox distributors and things like that. And my dad had a pretty amazing collection of blues 78s when I was about 13 or 14 years old. And that was a huge influence on me, and I'd like to do one of my favorite songs out of that stack of records. A song I don't think I've ever heard anybody play live. If you've heard somebody play this song, let me know. It's a thing called All I Want Is a Lavender Coffin. I spend my life playing dice and horses from Saratoga to Timbuktu. And now that I'm running my last mile, honey, won't you please make my wish come true? All I want is a lavender coffin, white gardenias all around, a swing band playing a funeral march as they lower me into the holy ground. All I want is 11 sweet maidens, just a singing that you got to be hit, singing round my lavender coffin, swinging in that funeral step. St. Peter, I said I'm a-coming. St. Peter, yes I'm a-coming today. St. Peter, I ain't been bad, so open up the gates on my judgment day. Hear those angels solemnly swinging, Gabriel blowing a funeral song. That's all I want is a lavender coffin when they lower me into the holy ground. St. Peter, I said I'm a-coming. St. Peter, yes I'm a-coming today. St. Peter, well I ain't been bad, so open up the gates on my judgment day. Oh, very good. Now, my dad actually had the version by Fat Man Robinson on Motif Records, which I found out years later was actually a cover of a Lionel Hampton song, right? And I guess 3 or 4 other people did it. But check out the Fat Man Robinson version on YouTube, because of course it's on there now, like everything is. But, you know, that being said, Art Fine, do you know I don't know what the significance of a lavender coffin is.
It's a nice coffin.
Yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah.
Lavender wards off death.
Lavender wards off death. Okay, thank you. Donna Loren comes the answer with the spiritual advice. Thank you. So, when I was about 16, 17 years old, I formed my first band. We were called the Untamed Youth. And it was myself and a bunch of dudes I went to high school
That way
with.
more people can come in. If you
And you know, we were all 16, 17 years old. We had never been in a band before. We were green as all get out. And of course, when you're that young and you form your first band, you think you are the most awesome performer in the history of music. And of course, I thought, you know, that we were seriously contenders to the Rolling Stones throne. And we started that band out like we were the next Rolling Stones. I mean, we were mean, we were tough. And this, believe it or not, this next song is the very first song that the Untamed Youth ever recorded. And I still have it somewhere, but you were never going to hear it because my voice hadn't broke yet. And I heard the version originally by the Rolling Stones. I found out later that it was done by a very cool early version by Don Covey. It's a song called Mercy, Mercy. Under the bed, that's right. Well, have mercy. Well, have mercy, baby. Well, have mercy. Have mercy on me. flood and drown. That's right. Well, have mercy. Well, have mercy, baby. Well, have mercy. Have mercy on me. Okay, now in this middle part, there's a real high note that I can't really hit, but I would just like to say that I can hit it better than Mick Jagger could hit it when the Rolling Stones covered this song. So here we go. I said, hey baby, oh, hey now, what you trying to do? Oh hey baby, oh hey now, please don't say we're through. Well, have mercy, well, have mercy, baby. Well, have mercy on me. Well, now if you stay, baby, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna work 3 jobs, 7 days a week, and bring my money home to you. That's right. Well, have mercy. Well, have mercy, baby. Well, have mercy on me. Well, have mercy, baby. Well, have mercy on me. Thank you very much.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
That night, I'm sure.
So, right around the same time, you know, punk rock was happening, and I had this band, the Untamed Youth. We sort of considered ourselves like the Rolling Stones, but people kept saying, "Man, with a name like that, you really ought to be sort of like a punk rock band." And I liked punk rock a lot. I loved the energy, and when I saw the Ramones play, I thought, "Man, what a great band!" You know, I saw them in 1986. They were about as irrelevant as they ever got in 1986. No one cared about the Ramones, but they still put on such an amazing show. It just completely blew my mind. And you know, here I was, this weird little kid in Columbia, Missouri, and I was into all this weird old music. And I would sit around at parties and I'd try to play Jerry Lee Lewis on a cassette, and you know, within 30 seconds, the cool guy would come eject it. You know, put in like a REM tape or something like that. I remember, you know, when I was trying to get busy with my first girlfriend or two, I would put a record on the turntable, and just about every time I put a record on the turntable, the girl would go, "What the hell is this?" All right, well, we can just do silence. But anyway, so when I heard this Ramones song, I really identified with it because, man, definitely growing up in Columbia, Missouri, I was the odd man out. I was totally the outsider. So this is one of those classic Dee Dee Ramones songs. I'm an outsider, and I don't really share that much in common with Dee Dee Ramone, but I do share the sentiment of this next one. Here we go. Well, I'm an outsider, outside of everything. Well, I'm an outsider, outside of everything. Well, I'm an outsider, outside of everything. Everything you know, it just hurts me so. He knows what I'm talking about. Well, thank you very much. That is probably the only time I will perform acoustic solo versions of Ramones songs.
That was awesome.